For those of you who follow my channel, I hope you've noticed that I haven't put anything out for a bit. That's because I've spent 8 weeks thinking about and planning this video. There are lots of videos about recursion, but learning to think recursively and coming up with your own recursive algorithms is hard. My goal for this video is to break that down into some steps that you can follow every time. If you want to get to that right away, skip to the chapter named Steps of Building Your Own. For the rest of you, I'm going to start with some background about what recursion is and some examples to show the wide variety of situations where recursion can be used. I'll end with an example where I follow my steps to build binary search. We need to start by understanding how recursion works. Let's start by looking at recursion in math, where they define recursion as a method of defining a sequence, function, or other mathematical object in terms of itself, using previous terms or simpler versions of itself. For example, we could generate all of the even numbers with this recursive function. Let's make sure we understand how that works. Every recursive function is made up of 2 cases. Recursive cases, where the value of the function for one parameter value is defined in terms of the function's value for a different parameter value. In this case, the nth even number is defined to be 2 more than the n minus first value. To clarify, here's a list of even numbers. Let's compute f of 5. The formula says that will be equal to f of 4 plus 2. And I agree. The 5th even number is 10, and that's 2 more than the 4th even number, which is 8. But let's say for a minute that you don't know what the 5th even number is. All we know is that it is f of 4 plus 2. Well, f of 4 is f of 3 plus 2, and f of 3 is f of 2 plus 2, and f of 2 is f of 1 plus 2. At this point, we can use the other case in the definition of our function. This is called the base case because it's not recursive. So we know that f of 1, the first even number, is 2. So f of 2 is 4. That lets us compute f of 3 to be 6, and now f of 4 is 8, and finally f of 5 is 10. So a recursive function can be used 2 ways. We can start at the base case and generate a sequence, or we can start at the case we're interested, keep recursing until we get to the base case, and then unwind the recursion back up to get to what we originally wanted to compute. That second way is the way most computer scientists use recursion. We have a specific value we want to compute, so we start there, and we recurse down to a base case, and then use those results to build back up to the case we care about. We can take the idea of recursion and use it to design and build algorithms. For example, building on our math example, here's the code for computing the nth even number. The declaration shows that it is taking an integer parameter, that's specifying which even number we want, and that it's returning an integer, the nth even number. Looking at the code, here's the base case, and here's the recursive case. Sometimes the recursive case requires more than one recursive call. For example, here's the mathematical recursive definition of the Fibonacci sequence, which generates this sequence of numbers. Here's the code for finding the nth number in that sequence. Again, you can spot the base cases here and the recursive case here. It turns out that we can think about a lot of our data structures recursively. The subarrays of an array are also arrays. The substrings of strings are also strings. A binary tree is made up of binary trees. In a list, the next pointer of the first node is pointing at a list, and so on. Once we do that, operations on those data structures can be defined recursively. For example, we could define the finding the length of a list recursively. The base case is the empty list. Then the length is 0. For the recursive case, the length of the list is 1 more than the length of the list that the first node points at. Here's the code. This time the parameter isn't n, it's the list that we want to count. here's the base case, and here's the recursive case. To make sure we all see how this works, let's run through a quick example. If we draw a picture as if the whole list was the parameter instead of just a pointer to the list, suppose we call it on this list. Well, that's not the base case, so it will recursively call it on this list. Well, that call will require a recursive call on this list, and that will recursively call it on the empty list. That's what our next list points at. That hits the base case, which returns 0. That makes this call add 1 and return 1. Then this call can add 1 and return 2, and our original call can add 1 and return 3. We can use the fact that strings are recursive to define things like palindromes. A string is a palindrome if its first and last characters match, and the substring between them is a palindrome. Our base case is that the empty string, or a string of length 1, is a palindrome. That thought process leads us to this code. Here's the base case, and here's the recursive case. I like this solution because I don't have to think about whether the string has an odd or an even length, which I would have to think about if I was trying to build a loop to check this. Recursion is good for computing things, but it can be also used for other things too. I have one other example that I think really shows the power of recursion. Look at this computer-generated image of a fern. We can define that fern recursively. It's a stem with a little fern 90 degrees to the left, another little fern 90 degrees to the right, and a slightly smaller fern tipped at a little bit of an angle. Once you can think of it that way, look how simple the code is. I've made a fern function that takes 4 parameters. Don't worry about the first one, that just gives us a place to draw. Size is how big we want the fern to be. Angle is at which direction we want the fern to be drawn. And X and Y are where the bottom of the fern should be on the screen. Then the base case is that we draw nothing if the fern is too small. The recursive case is draw the line that is the stem, draw the fern that is a third the size to our fern 90 degrees to the left, and another the same size 90 degrees to the right, and then draw another fern that's a little smaller and change the angle by just a little bit to make the overall fern have a gentle curve to it. I think this is a great example of a case where the recursive solution is so much more clear than the iterative solution. Just try to imagine the looping structure that you would need to draw this. Now that we see how fun and how powerful recursion can be, let's look at how you can come up with your own recursive solutions. I propose this strategy. We need to start by figuring out how we can divide a problem into smaller problems, and then use those solutions of the smaller problems to find the final solution. That's something like the recursive definitions that we came up for strings, lists, ferns, etc. Once you have that, your parameters need to be able to specify the information that the smaller case needs to know. For our list and string solutions, the smaller thing is of the same type as the big thing, so we didn't need to do anything special. However, for the fern, the smaller ferns differed from the overall fern in size, angle, and where they were on the screen, so I needed parameters for each of those pieces of information. The last thing we need to think about to have the function declaration is what information the solutions for the smaller problem have to send back when they finish. When we calculated the length of the list, the smaller problem had to pass back an integer because all we needed was its length. For palindromes, we had to pass back a Boolean for whether the substring was a palindrome. If the recursive solution needs to pass back more than one piece of information, you might need to create a data structure for the return type. That's how we know what the function declaration will look like. For the code inside, we need to define the base case. What subproblem is small enough that we can calculate the value without recursion? That's typically coded as an if statement at the beginning of the function. For recursive cases, We need to figure out the values that we'll pass in to specify the smaller problem, and how we'll put the results of those calls together to build the answer for the big problem. Let's follow those steps for a well-known algorithm, binary search. Binary search is given a sorted array and a value that you're looking for, and it's supposed to return the position that that value is in. I'm going to call that value the target. The recursive strategy for binary search is this. The base case is an array with one thing in it. If that one thing matches the target, we return that position. If not, we need to denote that we couldn't find the value. For the recursive case, we look at the middle element of the array. Yes, if the array has an even number of elements, middle isn't really precise, but I don't care. Look at something close to the middle. If that's the target, return that position. If it's not the target, the subarrays that we can make are the stuff up to the middle element and the stuff after the middle element. Since the array is sorted, we know if the target is smaller than the middle element, then we need to look in the first half of the array. And if the target is bigger than the middle element, we need to look at the second half of the array. That tells us the parameters our recursive function needs. We need to pass in the array and indexes to denote the beginning and ending of the section that we're currently searching. In a language like Rust, where you can take a slice of an array, we'd use that. But the two indexes at the edge of our subarray will suffice. Each recursive call needs to pass back either a position or the idea that it couldn't find a target. Since I'm coding in Java, I'm going to do that with an optional. That will let me return either an integer or optional.empty, which I'll use to mean it didn't find the target. Because I'm playing in Java, but I don't have enough context to know what class structure should contain this, I'm just making a static method in a class, so I don't have to create an object. The point of this is to develop the method, not a lesson in object-oriented design. Let's start building the code with the base cases. I really like test-driven development and building a little bit at a time, so these two tests capture the two possibilities of our base case. In both, the start and finish indices tell us that we're looking at a subarray of length 1. In this one, the target is the value in that position, and in this one, the target is something else. I can make these two tests pass with this code. There is one more case where we will not recurse if we look at the middle element and it matches the target. Here's a test for that. Since the start and finish of the subarray we search are 1 and 3, the middle position would be 2, so I made the target 3 so that it would find it. Here's my solution to get that test to pass. I let Java do integer division, which works for this case when the subarray is odd. If the length of the subarray was even, where the middle would technically be between two elements, it'll give the element to the left of the middle. Good enough. If that element matches the target, return an optional with that position. Okay, so now we need to recurse. I want to do the simplest recursion possible. If we madly let it recurse deeply, any bug that we have will be really hard to track down. So I designed these two tests so that we have to recurse exactly one time to find the target. I can make these pass with this code. You can see the two recursive calls, left and right, here. For this algorithm, the result of the call is just the same as the return value from the recursive call. So those are done. With that, there's a chance that I've built everything I need, but I'm not comfortable yet, so I'm going to add some more tests. Like our last two tests, these recurse one time in each half, but this time the target isn't found. That passes right away. Now that we've proven that all of the cases that recurse one level deep work, and that the base cases work, induction probably proves that we're done. But formal proofs are not my thing. I want 3 more tests. This one will recurse a few times and not find what it's looking for. And then these 2 will make sure that we find everything in the array. And because there's that little weirdness around finding the midpoint, depending on whether the array is of odd or even length, I tested both just to be careful. Everything works right away. Well, I'm hoping that that was worth all of the time I spent thinking about how best to explain recursion. I've never seen somebody specify a sequence of steps you can go through to create a recursive implementation, so I'm hoping that you all will think this was valuable too. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think.